The economy is falling apart and it's not happening by accident. This is what the CBs want, but more importantly this is where the patriots are leading them. They are not in Biden's favor, the people are not with him and the people see the plan very clearly. This is not a criticism, for there is literally an avalanche of information and links to other sites to digest. And for some, it is largely or even completely alien to their worldview and/or educational framework, to be categorically rejected as nonsense. On the other hand, there is much here to scan and possibly learn with each day's postings. The archives also offer rich content if one is willing to be diligent. There is also the ever-present sense by many that this is some type of giant misinformation game, a super scam that spans the globe, or an MLM-type funnel-up means of extracting money from the gullible and unwise. Many sense that it reflects an upcoming GCR and Nesara event of great importance, date unknown, withheld for obvious security concerns. Others see this as nothing less than a planetary event of cosmological and possibly galactic importance. More than a few have seen their entire life turn on a dime, as mountains of new and heretofore unknown information come into their line of sight. The exposure to new ideas, new books, and new takes on the true power structure of the world, past and present, has opened inner portals for some. The requirement for new reading and study in a time where we feel we do not have time can be overwhelming. It is a bullet point, headline world, and time is of the essence. Unlike the early days of the transition, it has become a test of endurance and test of faith for most. I myself have focused great attention on the historical context of what is happening. But that is just me. This site and its leading contributors have offered up an amazing array of things to consider. If there is something truly important afoot, you might just get a chance to participate. You will form a frame of reference in your own way, via your own conscience, secular or spiritual, and in a manner that reflects who you really are. The resonance of it all may or may significantly change your life. Each soul will lean a certain way when exposed to new information and new ideas, for we are human, are we not? For some, an alternate worldview has resonated almost instantly inside them, and they feel something they cannot explain. For some, though, it is just a way to get an inside position on some easy money exchanges. Whatever is the ultimate truth, many people have been affected already as to their knowledge base, their current relationship with life, their relationship with their fellow human beings, and maybe their place in the universe. The great transition I often allude to has been made possible by an avalanche of advanced new technologies, and the inevitable collapse of the central bank, fiat money system. While seemingly new, I suspect it has been slated for a reset for quite some time. I am in the camp that believes there has been a galactic intervention supporting radical impetus for monumental change. But it is history that produces history. The smartest minds and far-sighted leaders of Earth know that history, its eras, phases, and ages, are always subject to change. And, logically, change will either be negative, neutral or positive. 3 choices, and we all prefer the last one named. The part of science we call quantum physics was so revolutionary in concept in its original presentations that Einstein himself was not eager to embrace it. However, it grew more robustly as a sector of physics than anyone ever dreamed. Today, it is an incredibly important part of the advanced technology power base that has seen human potentials via science explode. Banking has already been digital for decades. That upgrade beyond the ancient system of pen-ink ledgers was enabled by the advent of reliable electronic computers. In turn, the advances in computers and telecommunications quickly enabled the banking system's creation of a credit card network. That network grew to become 80% global and resulted in the greatest wealth creation mechanism from the masses to the banking elite ever invented. Old usury laws were rewritten in favor of the large mega banks. The abandonment of usury laws worked to the disadvantage of the great bulk of humanity. Easy credit is the second greatest seduction on earth, we learned, and is a foundational aspect of perpetual debt slavery. Thus, we have sectors of technology that became inextricably linked to modern banking practices and global financial systems. It is a system that has been imposed or engendered in virtually every country in the world. It serves a need, yes? But it also serves a power base. Let us explore a busy corner of history's spider web. Prior to World War II, the greatest military and financial power in the world was Britain. It had reaped for centuries the benefits of the colonial era. As far back as the 1700s it had gained control of the colony of all colonies, India. In the late 1700s it had secured its colony of Canada, not yet truly understanding the organic and mineral wealth that it had secured in that process. In the early 1800s, Britain gained a financial alliance, supporting both the integrity of the City of London and the powerful Rothschild banking family. In so doing it brought forth a strong strategic funding mechanism that essentially banked the lion's share of the Industrial Revolution and indeed the modern era. Massive investments in worldwide railroads, port facilities, steamship lines, coal mines, gold mines, steel mills and eventually electrical systems ensued and reaped massive financial rewards. It had brutally eliminated the internecine power base of the Boers in Africa and consolidated British control of massive quantities of underground gold and diamonds. Britain quietly gained control of Rhodesia, the most mineral-rich country per square mile in the world. And there were many other colonies too numerous to note here as well. It is worth noting that in those days, India included what is now Pakistan, together forming a vast territory often cited as a subcontinent with 20% of the world's population. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in the aftermath of World War I, Britain masterfully positioned itself into either a protectorate role, or an insidious clandestine political role, in what is now Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. This positioned them perfectly for the future, for they well knew a mechanized world requiring massive quantities of oil and refined gasoline was coming. They also essentially, with the French, controlled Egyptian politics and thus the vital Suez Canal. Britain also controlled, as sovereign power, a Far Eastern colonial network that included Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Burma, and Malaysia. In all this cavalcade of international rise and fall, the power gained by the British Empire through centuries did find an unexpected fall due to the ravages of 2 world wars and the loss of most of its colonies. However, it did not lose its Commonwealth. We turn now to the Bretton Woods Revolution in 1944. With the success of the Normandy invasion, under the supreme command of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, came a great assurance of Allied victory. Great Britain as a nation-state, and the leader of its far-flung Commonwealth, had been saved. The Bretton Woods meeting was set for a date 2 weeks after the beach bridgeheads had expanded sufficiently inland. It was thus planned even before D-Day. In other words, the success of D-Day meant that the post-war era would be dominated by the U.S. and so it came to be that an exhausted Britain and France with suppressed tears handed the reins of reserve currency power to the U.S. The new upstart, with immense new leverage in global politics, would see the U.S. Federal Reserve Note, a gold-backed currency, become the reserve currency of the post-war era. It was the quietest shift in global power the world had ever seen. A year later, after Germany's surrender, the most favored allies were notified that the U.S. possessed a new weapon capable to destroy an entire city. One plane, one bomb. Some urged restraint on moral grounds. Within 6 weeks the new bomb was twice unleashed, and World War II for all intents and purposes was finally over. For 7 years, no other country in the world had a nuclear weapon. Doubts as to U.S. hegemony by friend and foe alike evaporated. It was no surprise when parts of the winning alliance were rearranged a bit to form a new alliance. The atomic bomb secret was shared with Britain. Soon enough, France and the USSR became nuclear powers as well. It was obvious to the world that the old colonial powers were still in the game, but that 2 sleeping giants had emerged, the and Russia. The United Nations was soon pursued and supported by these same nations. Everything changed after that. Within the urban boundaries of London is a sector called the City of London. This city within a city retains, in some secrecy, its historic ties to the surviving remnants of the Roman Empire, both East-West, the exceptionally wealthy remnants of the old Venetian banking families, the wealthy feudal princes that were loosely consolidated into the Holy Roman Empire, the Rothschild banking mining empire, the Swiss bankers, who are immune to war, the creators of centuries-old trade corporations, colonial-era shipping conglomerates, and ultra-wealthy insurance companies. Its influence eventually spread to every major city of the Commonwealth. It is the epitome of the centralized European elitism that century by century gained immense power in world politics and varied financial sectors. But, the City of London has had to adapt to new technologies like everyone else. It has had to cope with the new transition and intricacies inherent in the new QFS. This time of great transition will see Britain and its Commonwealth forge a new alliance with China, the true reason for Brexit. The pound sterling will be completely gold-backed soon in the new QFS, and its CBDC will reflect its prominent position in the basket of world reserve currencies and the new emphasis on SDRs backed by the new gold-backed, African Libra, CBDC. China in turn, finally abjuring its communist past, will be the very EPI center of three alliances: the BRICS alliance, the Sino-Anglo alliance, and the quid pro quo trade alliance with the U.S.A. in place since the early 1970s. Its CBDC will be interchangeable at par with the new Russian CBDC and the new African Libra coin. In the Near East, the never-before-seen, golden dinar, will represent the oil wealth and massive gold reserves accumulated by the oil-rich nations of that region and possibly Turkey. Its CBDC will reflect its new status within the new basket of reserve currencies. The USA retains the lion's share in the expanded reserve currency basket, but will allow the reconfigurations dictated by carefully monitored GCR precepts and the new QFS with blockchain review mechanisms. It actually has no choice, but its legacy role will be upheld for the stabilization effect it brings to the transition period. Its scientific and educational infrastructure is vital to the transition. The currency resets are important to also stabilize the birthing pains of the new system. The vast bulk of currency and bondholders, by design, reside in the US and Commonwealth nations. This is due to the fact that a counterweight to the residual power of the elite will need to be set in place. This curbs their undue influence in the corporate world and the political realm. The currency exchangers also will provide a very important humanitarian, bridging aspect into all nations. This balanced power shift will finally enable all nations, regardless of military power, true balance in trade, fair banking practices, the easing of wealth disparities, and new legal protections via a newly seated world court that is not dominated by the West. Not insignificantly, black markets and criminal cartels will soon disappear as they find it hard to use or bank the new blockchain money.